sun is racing.
Welcome, race fans, to another episode of the Rubbin' is Racing Daily Fantasy NASCAR Show. We have all your action from the Bank of America 500, where we're going to go 334 laps around this 1.5-mile oval. Stages will be at lap 85, lap 170, and then we race all the way to the finish.
Interesting fact about Charlotte is that within the last 12 races, the winner has come from the 10th spot within the top 10, 8 of those races. Chevy has the majority of those wins at 6, with Ford and Toyota splitting the rest with 3 apiece.
Whatever you do, don't put the blame on you. Blame it on the rain. Yeah.
That's right, kids. You can blame it on the rain this weekend because we're probably not going racing at the scheduled race time, which is Sunday, October 8th at 2 p.m. Eastern on NBC. Now, the reason why is rain bands from Hurricane Nate are probably going to wash out the track at various stages, and by the time one rain band moves through, they're not going to have enough time to dry the track before the next one comes through. So I'm guessing we're going to be racing Monday, maybe even Tuesday, before we get to see this one wrapped up.
Speaking of the rain, we going to do some Rain Man picks this week, buddy?
I don't know, man. I'm feeling that we may need to.
I mean, qualifying was crazy. But
rain aside, it's time to burn some rubber, buddy. Do some honors.
Rubber Charlotte, baby!
All right, buddy. So who do you have to burn some rubber this week for us?
Well, kind of what I talked about there, the interesting fact with Chevrolet. Obviously, last week at Dover, if you want to break that race down, majority of the now I know that the congratulations again to Kyle Busch, another Toyota victory, but majority of that race was dominated by Chevrolet. And like I said, within the last 12 races here, 8 of those have come from the top 10, and half of the 12, which is 6, have come from Chevrolet as the winner. So, before I get in my pick, I mean, qualifying was absolutely nutso yesterday. Now, granted, obviously, they're qualifying in the dark at nighttime, different temperatures, where supposedly, we're going to be racing on Sunday during the daytime. We'll see what happens with all this, but it's going to be completely different, and you've got major drivers all over the place, all over the board. Also some that don't belong towards the front. Just unbelievable. But I'm going to be going with a guy that had some domination last week and also drives a Chevy, but is looking for that first playoff win of his career. And I'm going to be going with Larson in the 42. And they're obviously having an amazing 2017 season. And like I said, he's looking to capture his first playoff win this weekend at Charlotte. The 42 team has been strong, and obviously last weekend they were very strong at the Monster Mile, leading 137 laps. And he finished with your fantasy teams with 95 points for DraftKings scoring, which was second to the King last weekend, which was Chase Elliott. Larson starts Sunday from the 10th position, so he definitely has some additional value this week due to his starting spot. Of course, paying attention to practice today, if they get it in, will be crucial. But see what his averaging, what he's doing on his long 10-lap runs. He has been a strong driver here at Charlotte. He has not been a strong driver here at Charlotte. In 8 races, he's got 0 wins, 1 top 5, 2 top 10s. He has led only 8 laps in 8 races, so he's averaging 1 lap led per race. 7 out of the last 8 starts have been higher than 24th position for him here at Charlotte. So historically, he hasn't qualified very well here. His cost this week is $10,400, which is 3rd highest on the board. It's going to be a hard week to choose drivers, as there's going to be so many different options with so many different drivers qualifying, and it's just going to be a very, very tough week. We're not going to have much parity this week, which will be nice, but this team is rolling with confidence, the 42 team. This is the first race of the second stage of the playoffs. So look for this team to have some dominating fantasy performance Sunday or Monday, whenever we get the race in. But, with his place differential with the starting in the 10th position and them just being very, very strong. They've had a fantastic 2017 season. It's time for him to check that box next to his name on the playoff win and get it done this weekend.
Yeah, see, I like the Larson play, and we've said it all season long. You have to throw away Larson's previous stats. That car is just at a different level than what it's been previously. I'm not worried about him this weekend, and I love the starting position. And now you said there might not be a lot of parity, and I'm going to politely disagree with you. I think because of where DraftKings has the salaries this week and where the starting field is, there's going to be a ton of parity. Because when you start to try to put together these lineups, you really have to make decisions, and the decisions you have to make are extremely uncomfortable ones. Because just trying to get 3 of the guys that are around the 10 and 9 mark, you're having to do super punts. You're not able to get the Eric Jones play on your lineup. So people are going to have to be creative and get away, because traditionally there are 2 dominators at this track, right? And then your place differential guys. The problem is the way DraftKings has it priced, those are all the same guys. And you're not going to be able to take 4 of them and not going to be able to round that out. So, which I think transitions me well into my plays. Now, I'm doing something a little bit different for my Burning Rubber play, and we're going to just talk about the gods of Charlotte and the gods of the 1.5 mile track. The first is that of Rowdy at 10,600. Like Liehr said, he won last week. That car's hot. He's starting 4th, and the reason why he's starting 4th is that they were in a rush to get the Interstate Batteries car back on the track after Rowdy tagged the wall. But they finally got it back on the track, all banged up, and qualified 4th. Their teammates sitting on the pole. Rowdy's the dominator out of the Toyotas, not Hamlin. I would much rather have Rowdy at 10-6 this week. I think he's in line to dominate. And to be honest, that may be one of the places that I'm starting my lineups off with. The second guy that we need to talk about is Kevin Harvick, who had a good showing last weekend and is at 10,200. He's starting 3rd, and it's Harvick. He's one of the best drivers at 1.5 mile tracks. This is a play that you should easily be able to make, and my guess is because he's starting 3rd, he's going to be one of the overowned studs. Most people are not going to probably choose him to dominate this race, and it's very likely that Kevin Harvick could be one of the top 5 cars that get up there and start leading laps early. The next guy we need to talk about is Martin Truex Jr. at 10,900. He's starting 17th. I don't think we need any more than this. Is literally the best driver and the best car on the circuit right now, starting 17th. It's a no-brainer in my opinion. Then you have the best driver of all time, Jimmy Johnson at 10,000, starting 25th. I mean, Jimmy's only led 1,930 laps at this track. And even though his car was a little bit off in qualifying, I'm not worried about Team Hendricks or Mr. Old 7-time. He's going to get it done. This is a place differential play, plus he can lead some laps. And then the last play that we have to talk about in this group, and yes, I know it sounds like there's a lot, but it's because there is a lot, and this is what I think is going to expand parity, is Joey Bag of Donuts. Yes, Joey Bag of Donuts has been close to a dumpster fire the last half of the season, but he's starting 28th, and even as bad as he is, and as bad as that car has been, I can almost guarantee you that he's due for a great place differential day. He also grades out as the second best driver on this track, as 2 of the 3 times here when he started 23rd or worse, he has a top 5 finish. That's a fun fact, kids. Look, you're not going to be able to squeeze most of these guys in your lineup. You're only going to be able to get 2, maybe 3 of them if you do it right, and you're going to have to punt. But that is where the lineups are going to be won and lost this week. So, Liehr, I know I threw a lot out there, but what's your opinion on basically the studs of the 1.5 and of Charlotte?
Man, where do I start? No, and the crazy part is 3 of those guys, so Jimmy Johnson, Logano, and Truex, all 3 of those guys have won 3 out of the last 4 races. You know, with Jimmy Johnson winning here this race last season in 2016. So, I mean, there are so many different options. That's why I'm saying that I don't think there's going to be a lot of parity issues, because there's so many different drivers that you have to choose from this week. And you really got to take that hard line on, you know, who you're going to stick with and who you're going to avoid. So it's going to be crazy. But when it comes to Kyle Busch, I mean, there's no other driver that's, for me, the momentum has kind of shifted from the 78 to the 18 within the last handful of weeks. Because, I mean, he's got 2 wins under his belt. But we're coming to a track this weekend that he doesn't have a win. He has never won at Charlotte Motor Speedway, which you know that he is gunning to have that opportunity to, get that off his bucket list. So, I mean, and he's set up so perfectly to do that. So the only thing is, obviously got a little bit of damage on his car, but they did what they could, this crew, to get it back together and back out there, so that way he didn't have to go to a backup car. And props to them for getting that done. But out of all those guys, I mean, you're right. I mean, Martin Truex Jr. 17th. I mean, there's only been, I think, 5 times this season that he's qualified outside the top 10. So there's absolutely no way that car doesn't have a top 5 finish if nothing happens to him. So, I mean, that's more than 10 place differential points. Plus, if he ends up dominating any portion of the race, I mean, there's just so many different options. And I'm loving the Joey Logano play. This is obviously one of his best tracks that he has. He's average start is 12.9 and average finish is 11.7. So, like you said, he is the second highest grading out driver when it comes to this track. So, yeah, and then you got Jimmy Johnson right underneath him. That is just 8 total wins. I mean, you can't deny that. So, where are you going to go with your lineups? What are you going to do? To me, like you said, it's definitely going to be 2 Dominators, possibly, maybe even 3. With splitting, the domination amount of points. But I would put more emphasis on your Dominators with 334 laps this weekend. Obviously, the more that you have the guy that leads the laps, the better. And obviously, you need some place differential there too. But try not to. I guess that's probably why I'm going to be a little bit hesitant on maybe like the Jimmy Johnson, Joey Logano play. I mean, you're definitely going to have exposure, but for them to get up into the front and then also get those dominating points is going to be a tall task. But even if they do get, 20 place differential points or anything like that, they're right on the teeter-tottering of being a must-own play. It just really depends on if they can get that place differential plus the dominating points.
As far as Jimmy goes, I don't think he needs any dominating points to get up there as long as he finishes top 5. The 20 points alone of place differential should do the math when he gets to the top 5 points. So that should put him at a 60-point day, basically.
Plus, you throw in some of your fastest laps. And
yeah. That is an interesting point, though. It's going to be a very fine line this week between the place differential and the Dominators. I'm guessing it's going to be fractional as to which guys are more important to own, and it's messy. And I think that's going to create a slew of parity with lineups this week, finally, in NASCAR, hopefully. I could be wrong, you could be right. Everybody ends up with the same sort of lineups, just chunked around which set they went with. But I think there's going to be a massive amount of parity, and everybody's going to be all over the place this week. But we've seen that all those guys are priced above $9K. Most of them are in the 10s. And you have to own at least 2, probably 3 of them. Liehr, it's time to save some money. Who are you going to save some money with?
Well, the reason I'm laughing is because I chose a driver that not necessarily is going to be saving you any money this week. I geared more towards the definition of value. But I'm going to go with Matt Kenseth as my value play this week. And as we get into the round of 12 and Kenseth is still part of the playoff picture for now, he needs to come out and have a dominant performance on Sunday to have a legitimate chance at taking down this championship in 2017. Obviously already behind with how many playoff points that Martin Truex has accumulated. And then you've got the number 18 team with 2 wins in the playoffs so far. So the 20 team, though, overall has been up and down, the past 10 races. Finished a disappointing 11th last week at Dover. This week they got a pretty sweet starting position in second, rolling in the Todd. I can't even say it right. Tide's pod car. We're still up early this morning.
I think you messed it up even that time. It's Tide Pod's car.
Tide's pod car. I'm going with that.
There you go. Why not? It's early in the morning.
Yeah. Kenseth has some pretty good stats here at Charlotte with 36 career starts. He's got 2 wins, 12 top 5s, 20 top 10s, and has led 704 laps, which is amongst the higher of the active current drivers. But I know that he's been around a long, long time, obviously, with 36 opportunities. But out of his last 5 races here, he's finished in the top 5 in 3 of them, including being on the pole 2 of those 5 races. So by definition, he basically has some pretty good statistics here. And he does meet that word value this weekend. And Kenseth has the starting position, the history, the salary this week. His salary is $8,600, which makes him the 12th highest guy on the board. This team is definitely lined up to have a dominating performance tomorrow or Monday or whenever. And it's going to be their time to shine. And their time to shine is right now. They need to go and take advantage of this opportunity with all these other cars starting later in the field. You've got some other drivers that don't deserve to be up there where they're at right now, where they're starting. They need to get out there and they need to dominate this race and they need to take home the victory. Am I saying that Kenseth's going to win? No. But do I think he's going to be a dominator? Yes, I do. And, he's a crafty veteran. I see him leading definitely over 100 laps, and I will have a lot of exposure on Kenseth. And, the last time we talked about this, and I was all over the Eric Jones play, you roasted me like a chicken, and he came out and performed well. I have that same feeling this weekend about Kenseth. It's time to put their big boy pants on and get the diapers off.
Well, it's time to play the Rain Man song because I think you're there. I like it, but my problem is that I can't even, unless I start there, fit Kenseth on a lineup, much less afford to contemplate him. And part of me says that if I'm going to, I'd rather take the chance with your boy, and I can't believe you didn't do this, talk about Kasey Kahne, but it's probably because he's not anywhere close to value at $8K. But his track history here is something super sexy, and I don't know, man. Like, maybe Kahne and Kenseth are going to be the under-owned guys that should be highly owned, but man, their pricing's wrong, and the way they're priced with the studs, you just can't put them together. I don't know. What are your thoughts on Kahne and the pricing of getting Kenseth in your lineup?
Yeah, we've already kind of gently talked about it, but it's going to be one of those weekends. It's going to be hard to get these middle-tier guys in your lineup. You're only going to be able to probably get one if you go, like a Kyle Busch, Truex, and then one of these other guys. And then you got to start punting because, I'm sure that this guy we're going to talk about later is going to be really, really high owned. But Kasey Kahne, one, I'm still kind of getting over the fact of him taking over the 95, but this guy is unbelievable when it comes to Charlotte. This is like his dominating track that he has every single year. This is by far his track that he has the most success on. He's got 4 wins. He's raced here 27 times. He's got 10 top 5s, 14 top 10s, 18 top 20s. I know we don't talk about top 20s that much, but he's got over 1,000 laps led, 1106 to be exact, which is only second to Jimmy Johnson at 1,930. So Kasey Kahne starting from the 9th position. Interesting play. This may be his opportunity to get a win in the playoffs, but we'll see what happens.
You probably will be on an island roster in Kasey Kahne at 8K, starting that high, but he has a track history to do it here. And the play Liehr telegraph for me is my value play, which is Eric Jones. And I know he's 7,900, but the guy's starting 38th. Free square, no-brainer, don't even think about it. This is a top 10 car. Heck, most of the season he's been a top 5 car, surprising us as a rookie, making him even a play when he's qualifying in the top 12, which normally you would never want to do with a rookie. I love this play this week. He didn't get out for qualifying. It's a no-brainer. Free square. The problem, like I said earlier, is once again finding the 7,900 to put him on a lineup. But it may be better off, and you're going to see higher ownership. Most people are going to try to use Eric Jones instead of using Jimmy Johnson or Joey Logano because they're going to need to save the money to try to round out their lineup. Now, that may be the right scenario. It also may be the wrong scenario because it'll group you with a ton of lineups, in my opinion. Take that for what it's worth, but I think the Eric Jones play is just basically a no-brainer. Your thoughts, Liehr?
Yeah, I agree with you.
All right, that was well done. Since we didn't talk about any real value because of the guys that were right up against it that we felt that we needed to talk about, now would be a good time for us to discuss those guys. It's just the same stable it's been being, and it starts off with Trevor Bayne at 26th, Ty Dillon starting 27th at 6,700, Paul Menard at 20th is a little high, starting a little high for me at 66, Buescher at 21, but we've seen Buescher have top teams finishes multiple times this year. That might be a way to get sneaky at his $6,300 price tag. You couldn't pay me to roster Danica this week, starting 12th. I want no part of Mikey McDowell. I love the guy, but starting 16th, no thank you. David Reagan starting 31st is a little interesting at 5,700. Cole Witt at 5,500 starting 32nd is also intriguing to me. But Matty DB starting 29th at 54. Once again, we're right at that edge where it starts to make a little less sense as the place differential value play. And then you have Landon Castle starting 30th, and then the super punts. That's right, kids. All those drivers where when you roster them, you're just crossing your fingers, hoping to God that car gets around the track for all the laps, because that's what that equipment is at that level. And you know what? I have no problem if you want to grab a hold of it this weekend and roster one of those guys, but just know you're guessing on which one of those guys is going to run around the track the best. I would personally take Moffitt. He's the cheapest and starts last. That's where I'm leaning. It's the best potential for the value play, in my opinion. Liehr, your thoughts on the super punts and the kind of rundown I just did for value, since we both kind of cheaped out by going expensive.
I just want to give a clap to the 37 team, because Chris Buescher and that gain car this weekend, that thing is sweet, that paint job. I mean, seriously, another bravo for that, because I mean, it is an awesome looking car. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm right there with you. There's definitely some overqualifications. Michael McDowell at 16th. It's, to me, man, I mean, people are automatically like, no, I'm not playing that guy. It's an interesting play to me, because of the fact of his salary, but also where he's starting at. If he can hang up there and kind of stay up there where he started, it's going to make him a value play and pay off at that salary that he's at. But for me, if I had to super pump play, especially this week when we're talking about when you're trying to fit in an Eric Jones, a Logano, a Truex with a Kyle Busch, and maybe another large end driver, I mean, you have to have a super punt. So my super punt this week would be the Corey LaJoie starting 39th in my freedomsmokes.com car. He's definitely one of those guys where he comes and he usually he's been finishing all of his races, and he will eventually sneak in there in the high 20s and mid 20s. So don't count out the number 23 team, because he's starting second to last, and he is definitely better than some of these other cars in front of him, like the Timmy Hills, the BJ McLeods. So yeah, I would, if I have to super punt, my super punt would be the number 23.
I like how you called him BJ McLeod. Yeah, no, BK
McLeod.
Yeah, I don't even know how to pronounce it. I just know it's not McLeod. BK Racing didn't make it through tech specs, so both those BK Racing cars are starting 39th and 40th. That's why I like them as plays. I think they have the most potential, and they're two of the cheaper cars. And let's be honest, I don't want to start BJ at 33rd or even Gaulding at 35th. And Jeffrey Earnhardt starting 37th is going to finish between 36th and 40th. So you're going to get nothing there. So you might as well take the chance on the BK guys. And that's why I thought we needed to talk about them just a little bit.
That's reminds me of, you talking about pronunciation, about when we're trying to Di Benedetto, Benedetto. Oh, Di Benedetto.
That's why I just call him Matty DB, dude. I can't be wrong calling him Matty DB. All right, kids. Well, that wraps up value, as we gave you our true value picks and then extended a little bit. Now it's time for Going to the Garage. This is everybody's favorite segment where we get to talk a little bit of trash on the drivers. Now, maybe we're talking trash on NASCAR. Maybe we're talking trash on a team or an owner. Maybe we're talking trash on anyone we feel like talking trash on. Sometimes it's even DraftKings. Liehr, who do you want to talk some trash on this week?
Well, usually we end up talking about a driver that just overstepped their boundaries in qualifying. Been going with a local guy here where we're from. Going with Clint Boyer. This is a pretty simple pick in my opinion. But there over 7 cars starting later in the field than Clint this week, who has definitely a better car and are more on the up and up. And I mean, Boyer in that number 14 team, they're not in the playoffs. This is plain and simple, just an overqualification by that team. He's only qualified otherwise this season. I think it was one other time in the top 5. But Stuart Haas racing altogether, though, starting 3rd, 5th, 8th, and 12th. So good qualifying for that team overall. But he's raced here 23 times. He's got 1 win, 2 top 5s, and 5 top 10s. His highest finishing position in the last 8 races here is 11th. There is no way that Boyer pays off his $8,100 salary this week. He will be finishing outside the top 10 with very minimal Dominator points accumulated. But Boyer is a good play at certain tracks, but based on all those variables and factors this weekend, he will be a dud on your lineups this weekend, so avoid him. Don't play him. I know he'll come with a super, super low ownership percentage, and you're like, yeah, I'm going to get real low ownership percentage on him, but it's not going to pay off. Sorry.
That was a poor attempt at Tommy Boy. You're like trying to get all giddy.
Like Jojo, the idiot circus boy with a pretty new pet.
And I pet it, and I tell it, you're naughty. You're a naughty little pet. I have no problem with the city Boyer to the garage. I think I'm with you. It's an overqualification. I like Boyer. I think he's been running very well this season. A little bit under what I thought he would, though. But that whole team's been running a little under what I thought they would, even though they made the transition to the Fords, other than Harvick. And even he's been off of his dynamic Harvick style pace. So
yeah, all year for sure.
Yeah. So I have no problem sending Boyer to the garage. The guy I'm sending to the garage. Oh, that's right, kids. I'm pulling some Liehr. I'm going to go Rain Man on my going to the garage pick. I'm taking and sending my boy Hambone to the garage. That's right. I know that statistically, guys, that you want the pole setter more times than you don't in fantasy NASCAR. However, this is not going to be one of those times, in my opinion. He isn't much of a lap leader here anywhere, much less here at Charlotte. And I don't think that you're going to want to roster him, as he's never led more than 54 laps here at this track. He's also never won here. Now, he does have a bunch of top 5s, but like I've been saying the entire show, with a few laps led, the place differential guys and the other Dominators are going to be the ones that you need, and you just don't have 9,200 to spend on a guy that's going to lead probably 30 laps and then fall backwards. I think he's not going to lead a whole lot of laps. I think his teammate Rowdy is going to take him over quickly. If it's not going to be Rowdy, in my opinion, it's going to be Harvick early in this race. And if it's not either one of those guys, it's going to be one of the place differential guys that we've been talking about that's going to come up quickly and then start dominating. I just don't see a scenario in which Hambone is not only necessary for your lineups, but a good play. Liehr, your thoughts on the Hambone this week?
Yeah, there are just certain times and certain situations where you have to make decisions on the driver that you're going to choose. And also, too, what plays a factor into that is historical data, but also currently how things have been going for them and, how practice is going that weekend at that track. And, I know he's starting on the pole, but historically, he just, like you said, he doesn't have huge dominating performances here. And the displeasures of starting on the pole is you've only got one direction to go. If you can't stay on the mountain, you go down. And unfortunately, plane is going to be going down this weekend on the FedEx vehicle because I just don't see Hamlin staying up there, especially with the guys further back in the field. And historically, Hamlin just doesn't do that here. And with that cost of $9,200, I'd like you talked about, I'd much rather spend my money in other areas where guys I know have the opportunity to move up and gain place differential, but also that good opportunity to lead laps here and significant amount of laps, which I just don't see it from the 11 team. So, I'm right there with you. I'm sending Denny to the garage. Especially, did I send him to the garage last week?
I don't remember.
That's right. So I did pick him to go in the garage. He started 6th and finished 35th. So, man, my weeks are just running together. But
isn't that true? This NASCAR season is so long. At a certain point, I'm just like, I can't remember if it was that last week or 3 races ago. It's all just like filed away up here somewhere.
Yeah, but yeah, I'm right there with you. I can't pull the trigger on Hambone this weekend.
Yeah, and that's unfortunate. Anybody else that you're not pulling the trigger on? Like anybody else that you're just not even contemplating this week, Liehr?
I don't know. It's so hard because it's just so many different variables when it comes to each week. But I would say that somebody that I'm definitely not taking, I'm not taking Austin Dillon starting 13th.
Mm-hmm.
That team is way off. But other than that, man, everybody else is kind of a pretty open book besides the pole sitter and Austin Dillon. But even Ryan Newman's got some great stats here, and he starts 11th, so kind of a sneaky play there for Ryan Newman.
That was actually what I was just getting ready to ask you about. I'm like, what about the Rockets starting 11th? That kind of worries me. But he's got great history here, so even if you want to make that play, I wouldn't be offended or tell you it's a garbage play.
Right. And,
other than Danica starting 12th and a couple other plays that are garbage plays, you have the ability to go in any direction pretty much this week. And
that's why I think there's just not going to be a lot of people on the same lineups because you have so many different ways and areas that you can go this week. So
thus, a lot of parity in lineups this week, kids. We haven't had a chance, but before we wrap up the show, we just want to send our thoughts and prayers to all the victims affected by the Las Vegas tragedy. There's some sick people in this world, and unfortunately, we have to deal with those. And our thoughts and prayers. And if you guys want to donate money, we'll post the link to get money for Rowdy's Vegas charity that he's trying to raise money for. That is an awesome cause that he and Kurt Busch are getting behind because they are hometown boys from the Vegas area. And anytime tragedy like this strikes, we all should try to unify and try to get together and do something, try to change something for the better so we don't have to deal with this. There's just been one too many mass shootings, in my opinion, that we need to start addressing the problem. And I don't know that there's a good solution anywhere, but we need to be having the conversation, just like we need to be having the conversation with all these problems. The only way you're ever going to solve problems is by having conversations and talking it out. That's what this show's all about. So, guys, thanks for tuning in as always. And Liehr, I'll let you say your goodbyes and get us out of here.
Yeah, definitely thinking about those people out there in Vegas, and crazy that you go out and plan on spending your evening doing something fun and something you enjoy and listening to something that I find deeply meaningful when it comes to my life, and that's music in general. It always music is one of my favorite things in this world, and just to think that you were going to go out and have a good evening and spend it, listening to some music and artists that you liked, and then some of those people didn't make it home. So unfortunately, you've got people out there that I have no idea what they're thinking. Obviously, they've got personally deep issues, but all definitely prayers out to all the people out there. So. But as far as this weekend goes, hopefully we're not racing. And we kind of talked about this a little bit too, but I don't think we've ever had a weekend to where they've actually delayed the race by 2 days or more because I don't know, it's crazy, but we'll see what happens when it comes to this weekend and the weather down there in Charlotte. So,
yeah, hopefully, man, I feel like we've been doing this all season for the last couple months. Hopefully everyone is okay with the new hurricane. I don't even remember what it was called. It's in my notes.
Yeah, Hurricane Nate.
Nate, geez, man. I feel like we've had so much in the South, just keeps getting pummeled. The Gulf Coast does. Man, everybody stay safe. Like, hopefully this is just some flooding issues that we can take care of and there's no loss of lives. But, man, that's best case scenario. And we'll just hopefully get the race in and everybody's all right. But, man, this hurricane stuff.
I'm excited to watch this one, though. It's a great race, fantastic track, and we'll see what happens, and should be fun to watch. And hopefully, by the end of the day, my fantasy team is on top of it all.
Yeah, just before we go, real quick, they had a problem with the PJ1 compound in practice one, and with all this rain coming in, it's going to wash all that PJ1 off the track. So they're going to have to relay it down. If they have similar problems, this could get really messy. So just at that, you might even want to create if you're doing multiple lineups this week, might create something super contrarian that doesn't make sense just to try to get through if there's a PJ1 breakdown that causes a bunch of carnage. Just thought I'd throw that in before we get out of here. We want to thank you guys for tuning in, as always. Other than that, Liehr, anything?
It is Tide Pods car. Good job.
I figured out where the plural S should go.
Yeah. It's early, man.
Hey, dude, it happens. With that said, kids, have a great one. Let's win some money this week and enjoy the race.
Have a great weekend, everybody.